Where are you seeing automation and AI genuinely improve player experience today? And where do teams need to be careful about introducing risk, overconfidence, or removing too much human judgment? How do you think about augmentation versus replacement? Connor, let's start with you.
I will admit to being an AI skeptic, especially in the early days. In general, I've always been a function first kind of person. It doesn't matter too much to me that the thing is AI, that it's smart, that it's automatic. The primary thing I have to ask is, but what does it actually do? What is it actually for? Am I using this because it's got a particular brand associated with it? Am I using this because everyone else is using it? Or am I using it because it solves a problem that I have in front of me? So, a good example of the two kinds of AI function versus advertisement you might see in the CS space is we're talking roughly 20,000 ish over the course of a month in terms of tickets, by the way. I have one eye on the chat. So I do not need an AI that can send replies to players in place of agents. I have agents for that. I don't need an AI that could read a ticket and tell me how the player is feeling. I can read the ticket. What I can use an AI for is reading these 20,000 tickets, summarizing what's in them, and this can then be run by the team. And if the team sees familiarity in the summary, then we can take a little bit of faith and we can say this is probably correct. If, however, the summary says players are complaining that the music in game is too loud, it's a bad example. There is music in game. I just usually have it muted. But let's pretend there isn't, that they're complaining about features that don't exist, then maybe the AI is making something up. That can be checked by the team. But it does mean that nobody on the team, and especially not me, has to read through all of these tickets to try and put together some quantifiable feedback that we can then pass on to the developers or pass on to QA or pass on to product, whoever needs it. That's the kind of scalability that I see AI useful for, but it's not super flashy. It's not something that I could easily put in a presentation, show everyone and say, look how incredible this technology is. It does the really boring stuff for me. That's the stuff that I look for. That's the stuff that excites me about AI.
I think that idea that AI can be a full replacement is very tempting. Especially, it's tempting for stakeholders, like press one button and support is done kind of things. It's actually a very wrong mental model overall because, first of all, it's almost never one-to-one replacement. Support has this 80 to 20 effect where you can automate like 80% of requests, but you still spend the most of the time on the remaining 20 because this is where the edge cases, emotional stuff, like, or just requests where product expertise is required. So AI helps with volume and it doesn't remove complexity, right? The second thing is we should not apply the same KPIs that we apply to humans to AI. AI can close a whole bunch of tickets very fast, very efficiently. The question is the quality of this interaction. So this is where we need to be careful because first, replies that can be overly polite but empty, or super confident but not actually leading anywhere, can make players feel very dismissed. And our personal observation that players don't actually mind interacting with AI. They just don't like the feeling of being processed. And what I mean by that is like, yes, I got my reply, but it feels like no one actually read it. The solution is so, and I just feel, processed. And this is what we're trying to avoid. So the best approach that we developed is we automate the routine and we protect the relationship at all cost. So we are ready to scale aggressively AI where it improves efficiency, like drafting, translating, rephrasing, summaries, tagging, what Connor mentioned. This is all very helpful, and we find it extremely cool starting point if you're thinking about implementing AI into your organization. This is the safest and amazing thing you can start off with. But humans still own what they're best at, which is empathy, corner cases, emotions, and product context request.
You both brought up really great points. And one thing you both mentioned was making the tools easier for your agents to consume large data. Again, it's whether it be a full conversation that a bot had with a player before handing it off, being able to summarize that conversation and giving it to it, understanding the sentiment behind it. And Veronica, I love what you're talking about being processed. I think that's what gives bots in general, not just AI, bots in general, a bad rap. I think a lot of people don't put thought into a human needs to still be in this loop. And I think it's process is such an interesting and good choice of word there, because that's what I was thinking about after you said it. I was like, you know what? I was just part of this. Didn't even really care about who I was. And I think no matter what, it's AI. It doesn't care who I am at the end of the day, but there's that warmth that it can have no matter what, especially if it knows the context of who that player is. That goes a really long way. And I think it's important for studios to remember, like, I can utilize these tools, but I don't want it to take away that human element that my company represents. And I think people can see through that.
I run a little bit counter to the topic, because I mean it depends player to player, right? But I believe first and foremost that players want results above all else. They want to know the ticket was read and they got an answer. If you spend more time making the player feel heard than you do solving the player's problem, there is a point of diminishing returns where the player is going to say, yes, I get it. I'm very valuable to you. You deeply appreciate me. I've been here for 2 hours. I still don't have what I bought, for example. The automations that I use, the non-AI ones, I saw in the chat, Max has mentioned automating 80% of tickets without AI, but with a small volume. I do the same, but with the volume I have, and it's wonderful. I swear by automations. And the important thing for me with these automations is that players know they are dealing with automations. They know this is a process, they follow the process, and they will either get help or they will reach a human agent in the end. Where I believe we run into real trouble is when the player thinks they're getting a person and they feel betrayed when it turns out it's ChatGPT or it's an automation.